There's me and Will Smith. I was about to kill him, and then they said, okay, cut, we're gonna go to lunch. In the afternoon, they were gonna do the reverse on me. He went straight back in the puddle of water and did exactly the same thing, got wet again, everything, but well, no one saw it was just for me. And that's how generous he was as an actor. The World's End, Simon was going through recovery, so it's an incredibly brave thing for him to do. You hear stories of actors turning up 2 hours late, and it just drives me mad. And then they go on Graham Norton's sofa, and that's when they do their best acting. I'd never played a part of someone from Belfast before. It's inspired by true events. Brilliant story. The connection we had together was wonderful.
Welcome to Half the Picture, Eddie. How are you doing, sir?
Wow, it's lovely to be here. I'm really impressed by your notepad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's an awesome.
Really old school.
Old school. You're the first person who's ever said that on this pod. I'll just have you know. That's all. Thank you very much. It's an Osprey book. I got it from, I think, Decathlon.
It's lovely.
It does the trick. Well, what can I say, Eddie? I mean, I'm such a huge fan of yours, have been for years, and I think most of us here could say the same thing. I mean, you've been on our screens for so many years now. I mean, doing so much great stuff. So it's just such a pleasure to have you on the pod. And I guess to kick off with, when I was going back through your extraordinary back catalogue, I mean, you've done so much amazing work on, screens big and small with so many great directors, stuff, people like Scorsese, Terrence Malick, Mike Leigh, Paul McGuigan, so many great people, Steven Spielberg. You've worked with so many of the greats. And when I was sort of diving into your back catalogue and into your career, I came across a quote that you had said, which was the best acting advice you'd ever been given back when you were a student, which was from your drama teacher, who said, if I've got this right, he said, a great actor should have an ordinary life and an extraordinary career.
Yes.
And not the other way around.
Yes.
Because if you have an extraordinary life, you'll have an ordinary career. Yeah. And I guess, is that something that you still subscribe to? And and is that something that still informs what you do?
It's something I've got no choice in, really. I think if life just takes over. You have, I've been married for 25 years. I have 4 kids, and any normal person, life just takes. You become a parent. You worry about GCSEs and universities, and children have, mental health problems or whatever they have, and everybody has them. And if you don't have an ordinary life, then you're running away from something, and it makes your acting worse, I think. So anyone who's and I've seen actors who have avoided having an ordinary life, avoided the ordinary things in life, and they're tragic figures. They really are, because success, fame, acting will never give you the fulfillment that an ordinary life will give you.
And do you think it's all grist for your mill as an actor as well, having your feet sort of firmly in the clay of ordinary life, as I guess those experiences that come to us all, family, hopefully like family and friends and the people around us. Do you think that is all feeding into what you do?
I think if you don't run away from that, if you accept it, then you life, there's so much about life that you don't understand, and you're learning every day. So life always will make you humble. And humility and courage are 2 really essential parts of being an artist of any kind, a writer, actor, musician. So I think by not running away from life and getting on with life makes you a better artist. It makes you a better person, really.
And why do you think people, like, I guess specifically actors, want to run away from the ordinary? Do they have a fear of it? Do you think, is it just something about it that?
Yeah, I think a good friend of mine described it to me once. If you consider a straight line to be a self-image, a healthy self-image, most human beings have slightly negative self-image. So we will go home and think, why do we say that? Why do we do it? We think that we're a bit idiots, or we have a slight negative self-image. Quite a lot of successful people have a massive negative self-image. And so the way they compensate for that negative self-image is in the exterior world, the outside world, they achieve standing, they achieve fame or achieve success. And that means that in the outside world, they're treated like that, but internally they believe they're that. And that gap between the 2 is really, really painful. So the trick is to have as close to a kind of healthy self-image as possible, and not need success to fill any holes, really, I think. That's what I try and do.
Yeah, and you say, because of course you're a family man, you have your wife and 4 kids, and are they the people who help keep you grounded, and having them around you helps?
100%. They just take the piss out of me all day long. It's very good, very healthy.
Well, that'll definitely keep you humble.
Oh, 100%. 4 teenagers, there's nothing more to keep you humble than 4 teenagers. And keep your skin as well.
Yeah, guilty. I'm the youngest of 4, so
right.
I'm guilty of that for sure. Something else I found, going back for your back catalogue and diving into your work, is that I remember you saying that you were taught by Sam Cogan, the drama teacher.
I was, yeah.
An incredible drama teacher. And I remember you saying once that he gave you, some other great advice he gave you was, because when you went to drama school, I know so the first year you had a friend of yours from the local Bethnal Green community.
Yes, paid for me to go to drama school, yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Bennett, yes.
Yeah, so a bookmaker, right?
He was a bookmaker. He ran a menswear store on Bethnal Green Road, and I worked for him. So I never worked for him when he was a bookie. I worked for him, but he used to do his book in the shop. And he paid for me to go to drama school. Right. Yeah.
And that was just that because we're in Brick Lane here?
Yeah, it was literally about half a mile down the road. Yeah.
Wow. So these streets have got history.
Yeah, this is my hometown. Yeah.
Well, so he sort of paid for you to go for that first year, and then you got a scholarship. And then, am I right in thinking that Sam Cogan, who sort of took you under his wing, he said he taught you. When he taught you, he was teaching about the craft of acting, and he said that there was a method, because acting, there are so many different methods and approaches. Every actor has their own approach. And he said there was an approach that he instilled in you, which was, he likened it to a mechanic. Am I right in saying that? Is that right? Yeah,
he likened it. He knew that I had no academic points of reference because I left school so early. And so what he said to me was that he was going to teach me to be an actor the way a mechanic learns to fix a car. When you break down, and whether it's raining, snowing, sunny weather, whatever, a mechanic will open up his toolbox and fix your car. And as an actor, he said, whether the director's screaming at you or telling you you're wonderful, whether the leading actor is a lovely or a narcissist, whatever, I'm going to teach you to act regardless of the circumstances you're in. And he was good to his word, and he taught me, and I'm a great believer in the craft of acting, because it means that you have a means by which you can be consistent, which is the most important thing. The reason people pay me to do what I do is because I can do it regardless of any circumstances, regardless of what director I'm working with or anything. And someone taught me that. And I hopefully I'll teach someone else to do it. It's not me. It's for me. It's like being a carpenter or being a plumber. It's the same thing. I just know how to do my job.
And very well. And you just mentioned that it's something that you'd teach another actor. I mean, is that something that you've ever thought about doing, teaching acting?
I'm vice president of Mountview now, and I go back. I often go and I give a few times a year. I go to different institutions, and I talk to young students, and I give them some advice on not only acting students, but people who want to be behind or in front of the camera, and I give them some kind of advice as best as I can. Although the world is changing so much, they're facing challenges that I never faced. So there is a limit to what I can tell them, really, but I give them as much advice as possible.
Yeah, because you've spoken so much over the years about the importance of also working class voices in the arts, working class actors, directors, filmmakers, and we have to foster and nurture that talent and give it the opportunity to flourish and do, because those lots of different guests we've had on the podcast over the years, not just Mike Leigh, but also writers like Grant Morrison have talked about voices from the regions and working class voices just aren't being given that opportunity to come out into the open, and because sometimes the stuff they have to say is a bit too shocking for people who are sort of, I guess, from the upper echelons to hear, because it's not their experience. Do you think there's something in that?
Maybe. I mean, what I think is
not shocking, but it's challenging.
Challenging. Yeah, well, my perspective, from my experience of 35 years now, is that most filmmakers are quite left-wing. They're quite progressive, and so they're very well-meaning. They want to highlight inequality or highlight suffering. They want to champion the underdog. But the problem is that they come from backgrounds where they have no experience of living amongst those communities. So And invariably what happens is they see the world in a very binary way of like capitalist villains and working class victims, and that the filmmaker is the hero of the story, the camera, not even the main protagonist, the character, the filmmaker. They always find a character, a person in an estate which is invariably debauched, filthy, or full of drunks, or no one's working. And they find that person and the camera rescues them. And that's a very insidious, narcissistic, and an unjust portrayal of our communities. Because our communities really are amazing. It's full of amazing people who love each other and care for each other. And there is a bit of kind of poverty porn and the reason they do that is to highlight injustice in order to provoke change. But in doing so, they never really show our own volition, our own intelligence, our own dignity, the love and the help of community. I came from these streets, and my community was amazing, and I very rarely see the amazing attributes of my community portrayed.
And the kind of vibrancy and vitality of it.
Yes. What I see is a middle-class filmmaker rescuing someone in my community from a sea of debauchery, and it wasn't like that.
Yeah, and it becomes almost, you could say, I mean, I guess to use the parlance of our times, like virtue signaling, it becomes about the filmmaker, like, oh, look at me, look at what I'm doing. I'm doing so much good stuff.
Yes, they will go and sit at dinner at BAFTA and tell everyone how wonderful they are. And they will make a film, and you kind of think, well, hold on a minute. I mean, as an actor, one of the clearest things you realize as an actor, if I'm ever asked to play somebody from a working class background, invariably my clothes are dirty and the house is filthy. My house was spotless when I was a kid. I love my clothes. One of the things about what they don't realize about working class people is we have great pride in the way we dress and our appearance. It's one of the only possessions we have, really, our own dignity. And they deny that. And the reason they deny that is because they want to see us as being victims that they can rescue. It's probably not a very... It probably won't get me much work in the industry, but it's the way I see it. So.
Well, it's refreshing to hear that, to be honest, because I do think there is a certain kind of people are maybe a little bit nervous about just being honest about, and because there's the political sort of side to the industry and the business. So it's refreshing to hear.
I mean, David Harewood gave a brilliant talk at the Jonathan Dimbleby, the Richard Dimbleby lecture for the BBC a few years ago. And he spoke about, in 1958, the BBC wanted to do a live broadcast about the Windrush generation. And so they were about to go live, and they got this young actress from Jamaica to play a part. And 15 minutes before the cameras were going to roll, they showed her bedroom. And she should have been learning her lines, preparing to play the part. And for 15 minutes before the camera rolled, she tidied her bedroom because it was a mess. Because she thought she didn't want anyone to think that she lives like that. But they wanted to show her living in absolute Dickensian poverty, and she was like, no, I wouldn't live like that. I don't live like that. And that's what I'm describing.
So going into some of the, like I say, the myriad of films that you've made over the years, so much incredible work, so many incredible directors. I mean, one of my favourite films of yours, which is actually quite an early one, is Gangster No. The character you play is also called Eddie, Eddie the Thief. And there's a particular scene in that film between you and Paul Bettany, which I guess has kind of become maybe the scene from that film, which is Paul kind of sits you down and in your kitchen, in your flat, and basically sort of interrogates you. And we actually had the director of that film, Paul McGuigan, on the podcast a few years back, and he talked a lot about that scene. What are your memories now, looking back on it, making that film and that scene, I guess, with Paul?
Well, first of all, it was brilliantly written because it was originally a play that was on as the Almeida. So it was already a well-written thing. And me and Paul had known each other for a few years before we did that. We were young actors. As young actors on the circuit, you kind of get to know each other. So we both kind of, I mean, he's a movie star, and I'm an actor. He's a brilliant actor. But we both got to do it together, and we both trusted each other. So it was like two people who were connecting like good musicians, really. We both liked each other, admired each other, respected each other. And so the cooperation between, acting is a collaborative art form. So I was terrified because he was so good, and he was so terrifying because I gave him that authority. It's a symbiotic thing, really, you know. And the trick is, I mean, I grew up in the East End, and there's a glamorization of gangsters. I have a rule where I try to avoid making films about gangsters as much as possible because I don't like what the way the kind of Robin Hood vibe that I get from them. You know, I don't like the romanticizing of it at all. But when I was playing that, I realized that if you're doing a movie called Gangster Number One, don't be Gangster Number Two. Be the coward. It's the better part. So you know, when Paul offered me that part, I took it. I wouldn't have been Gangster Number Two.
It's a great way of putting it, because that scene, the fear that is in the air, like for the audience, coming off of your character and sort of staring in the face of Paul is just extraordinary. And having Paul McGuigan, as I say, the director, when he came on, we talked a lot about that scene, and he said that when you guys, because he was operating the camera, very few people in the room.
Yes.
It was like, let's keep this small and intimate and as possible. He said you guys are almost sort of trying to not the opposite of overacting. Let's underact. Let's make it quiet and intense. Was that your sort of recollection of it?
I don't know. I never think about those terms of overacting or underacting because they're self-conscious terms. They're terms where you're observing yourself. I just think acting is about being free. If you're free, then you're not trying to impress the audience. You're not trying to manipulate the audience. Terms like overacting and underacting are all about me trying to affect the way you, the audience, think of me. You don't exist. I'm in that scene with Paul Bettany. That's it. And I'm going to just do what I want to do. I'm just going to be free and authentic, and that's it. And then leave it there. Go and have a cup of tea afterwards and talk about it. But it's none of my business about overacting or underacting. I don't really understand those terms.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, something else that Paul said about the scene was that it completely changed permanently how he directed, because that's been yeah. He said that scene specifically completely changed, rewired how he directed, because he realized, because he's such a visual director, obviously. I mean, like, if people haven't seen his, I mean, people I'm sure will have seen his work and may not know that he made it, but like Sherlock, the Benedict Cumberbatch series, Film Stars That Die in Liverpool, Lucky Number 11, Victor Frankenstein. I mean, he's such a brilliant visual director.
He is, yes.
But he also understands actors, and he said that scene was the scene where he realized, I need to change my approach. And this is about the actors. This is not about making a world beater kind of shot, like, you know, an incredible shot. This is just like, because in that scene, it's literally like shot, reverse shot, you and Paul, and and being up close and personal with the actors, and it completely changed how he directed. He told me when he came on the pod.
Oh, that's very kind. It's very generous of him. But he can be generous because he had already achieved a level of expertise on the other side. See, I think what's one of the great things about Gangster Number One is visually the world that Paul created. So me and Paul Bettany exist in the world that Paul McGuigan created. So he can be generous at that. See, confidence and expertise can create generosity. You can let it go. Because once I think anybody who's skillful, like Paul McGuigan is a skillful director, anyone who's good at their job, when you become good at something, you realize there's nothing to it. And when you realize there's nothing to it, you can't claim it. So you go, okay, you can let it go because it's always there.
Yeah. And did that film, as I say, you know, that it kind of changed how he approached what he did. I mean, being a young actor at the time, and that movie, you know, like people saw that movie and it got out there. I mean, did it change? I mean, I guess that scene, but also more broadly, the movie changed how you worked in any way? Do you think?
I've worked with Sam Cogan and other drama teachers. So when I left drama school, I went and continued studying for like 6 or 7 years. So that was the fruition of 6 or 7 years of learning to act. But I learned to act in anonymity. Nobody saw me. And I made some terrible mistakes. I was awful. But by the time it got to do Gangster Number One, I'd kind of learned how to do it. But if you've been doing something for 7 years, you've got to be an idiot if you don't know how to do it. So I kind of knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
The other thing to my advantage in playing that part was when anybody, because I come from Bethnal Green, which is where, you know, the Cray twins come from, and everybody thinks they're glamorous and everybody wants to make movies about them. I grew up with people who were families who were terrorized by them, you know, whose lives were destroyed by them. and shops that had to give 50% of their income to them. They weren't nice people. So in my career, I've played terrifying people and people who are scared of them. Because when I grew up, there were some terrifying people, and I was scared of them. So,
Pulling from that well.
So yeah.
Well, what you said there about being an actor, you'd been working even before Gangster No. 1. You'd had time to iron out the kinks, I guess, in what you did.
I still am. I'm still learning now.
Yeah. But it reminds me of what Jack Nicholson said about, because he obviously worked at the very start of his career. He was, a Roger Corman player,
a B movie
actor, and then he got Easy Rider and everything changed. But he had the time to. He had the time to work out the kinks with his approach first, and had the time to fail before learning how to do what he was doing the best he could.
Yes, yeah,
and that's important.
Oh yeah, because Lao Tzu, who's the Chinese philosopher, said that ignorance is a human condition. It is. We don't know, and once you admit you don't know, then you learn. I still make mistakes now every day in every aspect of my life, in my career, in my being a parent, being a businessman, whatever I do, and that's fine. That's just part and parcel of it. We at the moment we live in a world we're not allowed to make mistakes, and that's very dangerous.
Yeah, treading on eggshells, not sure where to put a foot wrong. Shortly after Gangster No. 1, then, I mean, a movie that I guess like a huge scale movie, I guess in some ways the opposite of Gangster No. 1 that you were a part of was Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York, which you had a small part in there with another rogues gallery of actors, and that was like a 9-month shoot or something, wasn't it?
It was a 9-month shoot, yeah. And I had a nice part. I had a nice part as Jim's sidekick. And we had Stephen Graham there as well. Cool. I spent 9 months in Rome with Stephen. and we had a great part, but the movie was 4 hours long. So by the time the cut came in, I had 2 lines. Wow. So it was actually, personally, it was a great experience. I proposed to my wife in Rome, and we had a wonderful time. But for my career, it was a terrible thing for my career, because I spent 9 months on a movie and ended up with only 2 lines. You almost had to start again.
Oh wow! But even you could say I worked with Scorsese.
And it was wonderful, and to watch him work and to be amongst those actors and to spend 9 months on a set standing next to Jim Broadbent was, no drama school could teach you that. To be with somebody like that who's a brilliant, not only a brilliant actor but a brilliant human being and knows how to. There's a great skill in learning how to behave on set, because it's such a collaborative art form. And I learned how to act on a film set, how to be, because of the way Jim Broadbent was. And you can see young actors now, and you hear stories of actors turning up 2 hours late, and it just drives me mad. I just think, how can you behave like that? It means the crew's going to go home 2 hours late, and they've got kids they want to read bedtime stories to and things, and you're destroying their family life because you're turning up 2 hours late. And then they go on Graham Norton's sofa, and that's when they do their best acting, because they act like they're only a thing up. What the fucking bollocks.
Well, it's like you said earlier, they're having the extraordinary life and the kind of the ordinary career.
I find it offensive. I find it all that, turn up on time. Turn up on time. It's not, the golden rule of acting is not fair and don't be late. That's it.
It's like what Tom Hanks said. He said, turn up on time, know the text, and have an idea.
That's it.
That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
That's if you can hit those 3 markers, you're golden.
Yeah. And the more you prepare for something, what people don't understand is the more that you learn this with Mike Leigh, because you spend 6 months preparing to build a character and you researching a character. The more prepared you are, the more flexible you are. Because everything that happens you can deal with. Because invariably, in researching a character, every question that's asked on set, you've asked over the period of time of researching. So you say, oh yeah, I thought about that, and this. And you can be flexible. It's when you come unprepared and you're insecure that you become rigid and egotistical.
Well, we'll come back to Mike, because I want to dive deep into your working relationship with Mike, because you guys have done, so much great stuff together. But I heard Richard E. Grant say, another great sort of British character actor, he said, because he did Age of Innocence with Scorsese, coincidentally with Daniel Day-Lewis as well. And he said that on a Scorsese set, it's just absolutely almost monastically quiet. When he did it anyway, it was absolute quiet and silence. Was that what it was like on Gangs of New York?
No.
He's
Too
that's
many.
opposite.
There were massive sets, and every time you did a take, there were a load of pigs being. We was in Chinachita, but it was supposed to be New York in the early 19th century. Yeah. So, every scene, Leonardo DiCaprio's doing a speech and there's a load of pigs walking behind him and a horse and car. You couldn't be quiet. After every take, you have to go. It took 15 minutes to rejig everything to get back to normal, Yeah. I had no memory of it being silent when I was there. I remember admiring Daniel and his work ethic. Well, that was one of the things that I really admire. Yeah. And I couldn't look, whenever I was doing a film with Stephen Graham, we couldn't look each other in the eye because we'd start laughing.
How come?
Because he just makes me laugh. We had that kind of relationship.
Yeah. And what was it about Daniel's, because obviously there's so many stories being told about his process and how seriously he takes it. I mean, what's interesting is that Mike Leigh has said, I mean, he hasn't worked with Daniel on a film, but he has said that, I guess you could call it a pod theory, but that Daniel sort of, one of the reasons he stays in character is because it's easier just to remain in character rather than having to, I guess, on a film, you kind of have to turn it on and off a bit as an actor.
Yeah, when I did Ray Donovan for 9 years and played someone with Parkinson's. Mm. So I would have the symptoms of Parkinson's all day long when I had lunch, when I would talk to people, when the camera wasn't rolling. And it's not indulgent. It's not me being, look at me. What it is when the camera's rolling, I don't want to think about the shaking. Mm. I don't want to think about the symptoms because a person with Parkinson's doesn't think about it. It's spontaneous. Mm. And the way you create spontaneity is through frequent repetitive thinking. So the more you think of it, it's like driving. The more you think, when you first start driving a car, pass your test, all you can do is think about driving the car. It takes up so much of your brain. The more and more you think about it, the smaller and more compact the thought process gets, to the point where it almost becomes subconscious. And then you can hold a conversation while you're driving a car, or you can think about something else. Acting is exactly the same. When Daniel played Bill the Butcher, he was holding the physicality of Bill the Butcher, the accent, everything, so that it becomes subconscious. So when he's doing a scene, he doesn't have to think about it. Yeah. And it's the same when I played Terry Donovan. The reason I keep shaking is so that the shaking is spontaneous, and therefore authentic. Yeah. It's not people misunderstand it. It's not arty-farty, or it's just work. It's like having a clarinet and practicing. It's the same principle.
But on Mike's films then, on Mike Leigh's films, in relation to that, he was saying that on his sets, him and his actors, there's a policy, not a policy, there's a process of warm up or warming up, where everyone gets into character.
Getting into character.
And he says that's how he navigates that sort of thing of having to just turn it on and off, or on a film set, okay, I'm now in character, I'm now not in character. He was describing it almost as if like
But it depends on what you think character is. So if you think character is, like I played Himmler, right? And when I played Himmler, I had the German accent. Now, if I'm playing the character, if I'm in character as Himmler, then you can't have anybody around me who's Jewish, who's a person of color, because I want to kill them. That's not what, when I'm playing Himmler, I don't have those thoughts, but I hold the physicality. The physicality of Himmler, I hold. And then I bring the psychological thoughts in, because the psychological thoughts are always based on not only a long-term thinking, which is like over a character psychology that comes over many years. It's also an immediate thing, like today, it's Tuesday or Wednesday, and we're going to talk about this. And so the reason you have to be very careful what you say character is. Character is both a physical given situation that a character exists in, and an immediate psychological situation. So when Mike would say come out of character, he would say come out of character. And then if you did bad acting, he would say come out of caricature. But and what you do is, but even that is frequent repetitive thinking, because you're doing it, you create, when I did Happy Go Lucky, I worked on it for a year. So that character was I've been doing that for a year, and created every thought that Scott had, and studied the internet and the dark web and conspiracy theories for a year. Wow. So what I'm saying to you is you have to be very careful what you say character is. If you're playing a psychopath, you don't walk around feeling like a psychopath. That's not what it is. It's more to do with the physical given situation of the character. I hope that's clear. I don't know if it is.
Yeah, no, it is. And when you're building that character, because I know that you're an actor who loves research. Like,
Yes.
I know you love the kind of the rhythms and the processes of like I guess the details of the character, like, you know, even just down to the clothes and the shoes.
Yes.
And then we might as well bring him full time into the conversation. Mike Lee, you know, who you did Vera Drake with and Happy Go Lucky with and Running Jump with. And Mike's a director who's all about detail, as you say. Like, you know, you go away, you worked on that character for a year. And I know that so often what he'll do at the start of developing a film, because there's, you know, for anyone who doesn't know, I mean, there's no script. He works out the films with his actors and, you know, developing those characters, and then through improvisations and rehearsals, and gradually the film takes shape.
It's a very disciplined process. You're not freewheeling in any moment. You always know exactly what you're doing. It's a very patient, meticulous process. Sorry, Karen.
Yeah, no, but it's a very rigorous process. And with developing Scott, so, you know, you played that in that film, the character Scott, this sort of driving instructor from hell, who, as you say, is immersed in these sort of in conspiracy theories and the dark web, and he's got all this stuff going on in his head. And these days, I guess you could say incel.
He's an incel, yeah.
Would be a very apt description.
He was what that was. We didn't know. He wasn't given a name, but that's exactly what he was.
Yeah, and it's funny because mentioning Scorsese, he actually said recently that Travis Bickle, you know, Taxi Driver, that character is almost become a bit of a norm now. Like, a lot of people, he feels, have things in common with that character.
Yes.
And I think Scott is, in some ways, you go online. And
actually, when I was playing Scott, I thought I was playing the version of Travis Bickle until I got in the car with Sally and I realised that it was an Ealing comedy.
And with that character Scott, so as I say, Mike might tell you, am I right in thinking that he might tell you or Sally Hawkins or another actor to be like, okay, at the very start, go away and think up a few people, and then bring them in, and we'll go through them, and we'll start putting together the character. Is that what it was like for Scott?
Yes, you come to him with like 150 people, and then he whittles it down to 50, then he whittles it down to 10, and in the end he whittles it down to 1 or 2, and you base a character roughly based on those 2 people.
Right.
So and then from that, it's a very little germ of a character. You don't really there's a slight essence there, and then you build it from there. Where did they live? Who was their mother? Who was their grandmother? Where did they go to school? Where did they have their first kiss? All that, and then you gradually build from there. So Scott came from those discussions with Mike, but I'm not. When you talk about research and things, I'm not really, I suppose you can see it within me, I'm not really a very performative person. I'm not naturally what you would call a green room actor. You know, some actors are just natural performers. I'm not a natural performer. Acting was more to do with it's more to do with me understanding the world for my own needs. And then I'll explore that, and hopefully it's not that it's not expressive. It can be expressive, but it's not performer. I'm not a natural performer by any means. So research and the kind of exact things of creating a character are the means by which I can lose myself in that more. You know.
Because I remember hearing that some actors, they find it much easier going on stage as someone else because they feel sort of self-conscious in themselves. Like David Bowie said that, like, you know, going on stage as Ziggy Stardust was easier than going on stage just as himself. Is that kind of similar to what you mean, or is it kind of slipping into those shoes is kind of sometimes easier, or is that not it?
I don't know who I am. I'm not a fixed thing. You're not a fixed thing. None of us are. We're all. I don't believe that any of us are fixed, unchanging things. So therefore, when I become somebody else, I just bring my own consciousness and give it that information. And that's what my life is like. You know, when you live life, you wake up in the morning and it's raining, you're a different person than if it's sunny, because you're affected. Human beings are subject to their environment. But what is the thing that is subject to? What is that space where all these things come into? That is universal. That may even be the same thing that you are. Consciousness may even have no division, really. It may be the same thing. And we, like Jean-Paul Sartre said, that the universe, consciousness is just the universe looking back on itself. That's kind of where I come from with it. So it's not that I hide myself. It's just that I don't really understand when people try and tell me to be me, or to be an idea of me, or to be, can you be this kind of person from Bethnal Green, or can you be this? And I just think, what the fuck are you talking about? What do you think I am? I'm a unique expression of. We all are just unique expressions of the universe. That's one of the reasons why I don't like this ideology that actors have to have lived-in experience. When I champion the cause of underprivileged people from underprivileged backgrounds having more access to the arts, having more, writing more, or acting more, directing more, I don't mean that they can only make movies about council flats or council estates or being a miner or whatever. They're artists, so I want, like we're on Brick Lane now. You know, you go 2 streets along, you got massive Bengali community. I want some young kid of Bengali descent just off Brick Lane. If he wants to be an actor, I want him to play Hamlet. I want him to play Richard III. I want him to do George Bernard Shaw. But I also want him to make a movie about what it's like to live within his community. Because that movie, invariably, 10 minutes in, will become a universal story. That's the great, that's the kind of, the great paradox of, the beautiful paradox of it, really.
Yeah.
So I don't, I think that we are all unique expressions of consciousness. So if you're a gay actor, you're not the same as another. If you're gay, you're not every gay person is the same. Not every Jewish person is the same. Not every person of African descent is the same, or Caribbean descent. It's only a part of them. They are human beings. They are artists, and let them. Acting is an exercise in empathy, and you learn what it's like to be another human being, and it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, what you're saying, it almost reminds me of that idea of the collective unconsciousness, collective consciousness. It is. You know, because I understand that you meditate.
Yes.
Meditation is important to you in your process. Because
I need to, because I suffer from anxiety. So I don't meditate because I'm a great guru. I meditate because I need. It's a necessity for me because of anxiety.
I find the same, because I meditate as well. I do TM, Transcendental Meditation.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
It really helps.
It really helps.
It really helps.
I did it this morning.
It does, yeah. Because what it does is you realize that you sit there and you realize by relaxing and concentrating on one thing, and you see all these thoughts come in and out, that you realize you are not the thoughts. You are the space where the thoughts come into.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a really, then you can have a choice whether to give, how much power you want to give those thoughts, you know? And then that's when you really have control over your life.
Totally. And I find it helps as well with energy, like TM.
Yeah.
They took something that gets talked about a lot of it, is that you meditate twice a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon, and then and just being in that state of relaxation and kind of consciousness. When you come out of it, it really, you feel it. You feel that calm, but also that energy, because your body's been resting. So
well, I realized within me, it reduces my cortisone levels, you know, my stress. I can feel it. And those came from my upbringing. So when I meditate, I can feel in my veins. I can feel the stress levels, and I can feel them dissipate. You know. Yeah. And I realized when I went to drama school, they told me that I literally lived with my fists clenched. I wanted to fight everybody, you know. And it was through meditation that I gradually began to let go of that.
The anger and
not only anger, but anxiety and fear and a feeling, you know, because anger is just fear.
Yeah, and is that sort of Buddhist meditation? Or is
I'm not Buddhist. I mean, I do mindfulness of breathing, which is a Buddhist technique. It's the same it's the form of meditation that the Buddha was when he was under the Bodhi tree. He achieved enlightenment, but it's not. I'm a humanist, so I'm not a Buddhist. I feel very uncomfortable being considered spiritual. I don't understand what the word spiritual means. I find it just. I just personally don't understand the concept. But the mindfulness of breathing is a means by which I can just concentrate on one thing, separate myself from my thoughts, and then have a choice over whether I want to give my thoughts value or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that the same with me when I meditate. Is that just allowing yourself to step back and just to stop as well, and just to sit and go into that space. It's a blessing. It really
you can't be something and see it at the same time. If you see something, you're not it. You're watching it, and then if you're watching it, you can go, well, do I want to hold that thought? Is that thought skillful? If it's skillful, go with it. If it's not skillful, don't go with it. But if you don't see it, you are it. That's the thing.
And linking that then to your acting, do you find that again, grist to the mill, that all just feeds into your approach to acting and being able to step back and be more aware and mindful?
Yes, very much so. And that's making it less. I think people make acting to be a great kind of complex artistic mystery. It's not. It's not at all. You could teach anyone to act. I think, and when I look at people, they just don't know what it is. They think it's one thing, and it's completely different. That's all. Yeah.
And so going back then to Happy Go Lucky, because as we say, Mike's films arise and arrive through this process of rehearsal and improvisation before you get on camera, and then and when you're hashing out those the stories of the films, there might be really extended improvisations like 15 hours.
Yes.
And with Happy Go Lucky then, because obviously most of the scenes you have are with Sally in the car doing these hilarious driving instructor scenes. I mean, and then which have gradually builds up to this big third act blow up. Was that a similar? Was that like were those big improvisations, like long extended?
Yeah, ones? Very long. We would every weekend. Sally and I would do driving lessons every weekend. I think it was every Saturday and Sunday. We would go and do these driving lessons. And when we first improvised the scene without cameras or anything, it would be 6-7 hours long, and then. Gradually, when you're going to film it, Mike would say, you remember that you said this there and 3 hours later you said that? Well, go from that to that, cut all that out. And so a scene where you explored things for 6 hours was suddenly cut down to a 2-minute scene. But within that 2-minute scene, it managed to incorporate all that you had within the 6 hours.
Wow.
It's a wonderful, and he's a genius at the way he's created that. He is.
Because he really puts the actors, they're so much the centre of the film. I mean, like, people talk about actors, directors, and what makes a good actor's director. But I feel like Mike, just by nature and virtue of his process, it's just something else. It's unique. And the films that he makes and that you guys have made together and the characters you've made together are so organic. It's like nothing else.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about his films aren't didactic. And one of the reasons they aren't didactic is because he has an incredible integrity and discipline in allowing their characters to be what they are. He will never make a character fit an ideology. He will never make a character purely a function of something else. He will say that person exists as they are. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah. And what's amazing to me, pulling out and going more broadly on your career and the extent of the work you've done, how you oscillate between these different genres and different scales of movie. I mean, like in 2008, so the year Happy Go Lucky came out, that was also the same year that Hancock came out. Just to give an example, like, huge American blockbuster, Will Smith, A-list star, you as the baddie. And then the same year you've got this quintessential British independent film, Happy Go Lucky, coming out. Like, what was it like going from something as intimate as Happy Go Lucky in some ways to like Hancock, Peter Berg, Will Smith, huge Hollywood,
No difference.
No difference?
No difference. Because there's me and Will Smith, when Will Smith's talking, there's a camera behind him, and when I'm talking, there's a camera. And it's just like that. It's just the way, there's no difference in it at all.
Not at all?
No. It's acting is acting. It's like asking a musician, when you're playing in a small jazz venue, or you play in a big stadium, is it any different? And he'll tell you, no, I just play the notes, and that's it. It's exactly the same. Anyone who tells you it's they're getting carried, their heads getting spun by the size of it all.
Yeah.
The size of it all doesn't matter. It's all you've got to be the calm in the eye of the storm.
I mean, what was Will like to work with in that sense?
Wonderful. Lovely. I had a scene with him in the Hancock where the camera was on him, so I wasn't in shot, but he was lying in a pool of water, and the camera was over my shoulder, and he was lying there. And I was about to kill him, and he had to do this scene, and he was drenched. And then they said, okay, cut, we're going to go to lunch. Went to lunch. He went and got dried off, great. In the afternoon, they were going to do the reverse on me. So the camera's on, the camera's going to be on me now. he went straight back in that puddle of water and did exactly the same thing, got wet again, everything, but no one saw it. It was just for me. It was just to make my job easier.
Those are your shots.
Yeah, and that's how generous he was as an actor.
That's amazing. I mean, because as you say, like, actors, generosity is important,
Yeah, it's a collaborative art form.
Yeah.
It's a collaborative art form. And it's it's an element of trust. I mean, I play lots of violent characters. I have physical fights with people. You can have sex scenes, love scenes. So it's all about trust and respect, and it's collaboration, really.
Yeah. And then around that time also, you started your working relationship with Guy Ritchie. You did the Sherlock Holmes movies, playing Lestrade. What was Guy like to work with? I guess, as again, like, quintessential sort of British London director, making, this period action film with the Sherlock Holmes movies. I mean, what was that process like with him?
Well, within Guy's films, what I learned from doing Guy's films is as an actor, you realize what your function is within his films. They're very, very mapped out, and I knew what my function is as Lestrade, as the character in The Gentleman or whatever. So you, as an actor, you work out what your function is, and then you hide the function. So you hide the function in character. So you create characters to hide. So the audience, everything should be seen, but nothing should be shown. And Guy, doing Guy's films are a great discipline for that, because I often play characters who give exposition. The way you give exposition is you create character, you hide it in character. So people think they're watching a fascinating character, but actually they're not. They're just getting exposition.
So that'll be like in a scene, say, with Downey Jr.'s Sherlock Holmes, and you have to basically get him and the audience up on what's been going on.
So he can sit in a room and think, and the audience kind of know what he's thinking. They're with him,
Yeah, and what was he like to work with, out of interest? Because obviously his energy is so specific. And it's kind of, and I know it's quite, from what I hear, it's there is there's a discipline, but also there is great energy, and I understand, there's kind of almost improvisational quality sometimes. I mean, was that the experience like working with him?
I mean, as an actor, it goes back to what Sam Cogan taught me, really. If you do all your work, you can deal with anything, Acting, creating a character is you dig a hole and you sit in it. Whatever happens, you go, okay, I'll do with that. Yeah, and that's what it is.
How do you mean, like, dig a hole and like?
You dig a hole with the prejudices of the character. So the character, every human being has prejudices. When we came here today, we expected what the day was going to be like. You expected what I was going to be like. You probably had an idea of what I might be wearing, a rough idea in your head, and I come and it's not like that. So you have a preconceived idea of what it's going to be. You have a prejudice. You prejudge the situation. All human beings are prejudicial creatures. So you create the prejudices of a character based on what they want, and then based on what they consider to be the obstacles to what they want. You create that, think it, and then sit in it and let whatever happens happen and go with it.
And I know you, Guy, because obviously his films are sort of charged with energy and style and sort of kineticism, but then I remember hearing that he's actually on set, he's pretty sanguine. It's quite serene.
Yeah, he plays chess a lot.
Plays chess?
Yes,
Oh, really? Kubrick
plays
style?
Chess. Yeah, plays chess, very calm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's very, very capable. He knows exactly what he's doing.
So completely the opposite tonally, though, from, I guess, the energy of the films. The making of the films is very...
Yeah, but it's all mapped out. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's similar to Edgar Wright. Edgar Wright's very similar. They know exactly visually what it's going to be.
Well, I was hoping, it's funny you mentioned Edgar, because I wanted to mention him next, because obviously, another great film of yours that I absolutely love is The World's End. You play Peter Page, one of the central troupe of actors, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Paddy Considine, and Martin Freeman. I mean, that's an incredible film. And I mean, what are your memories of working on that now? Because it's been 13 years since it came out. I mean,
it's great fun because we all knew each other.
Yeah.
I knew Martin, I knew Paddy, I knew Nick. First time I worked with Simon on that job. So that was great fun to all make a movie together. But what was really interesting about that was people don't realize how well structured those films are, how really the amount of work that goes in before you make them. If you look at the dialogues, the Americans had a spate of films. There was one called The End of the World or something similar thing. But the Americans have this thing where they just put the camera and they improvise and they and they think something fun is going to happen
something will stick
because I'm brilliant. But what's great about Edgar and Simon is that they wrote the scenes in The World's End where you realise it's like an Alan Ayckbourn play. The precision of the dialogue, and as actors, as very competent actors, to do it together, having grown up with them as actors, and to suddenly know we all reached the level where we could do it was a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I feel like that movie especially doesn't get the credit that it deserves all the time. I think certainly from some of the fans and the sort of, I guess, wider sort of the viewership, because obviously Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz are so beloved. The World's End is it's a slightly different beast.
It's like, and it's also
darker.
It's also Simon. They are very, very autobiographical. Shaun of the Dead is somebody who drinks too much, really. Simon, and then Hot Fuzz is about going back to your, Edgar talks about going back to his home. And The World's End is Simon's character. Simon was recovering himself at the time and going through recovery. And he made that creative, he made a creative choice with that. So it's an incredibly brave thing for him to do. And a very generous thing for him to do. So the film is in many ways it's a bit more mature, but it's more because it's autobiographical, but he's in a different stage in his life.
Absolutely, I totally agree. There is a real bravery to that film, and it really connects emotionally. Like every time I watch it, I mean, because that movie meant a lot to me, especially when I was when I was about 19 and actually having a lot of questions and anxieties about a lot of the things that the movie is about.
Yes.
Growing up, how do you let go of the past?
Yes.
Should you let go of the past?
Yes.
How do we do that? The movie packed such a punch, and I think some people maybe weren't ready for that. Like it was like because they thought, oh, we're going to get another belly laugh romp,
Yeah.
and it is got those elements.
It does have those elements, but there's a deeper message in it.
Yeah, and it's It's quite for me. It's quite a provocative film because it's asking these questions about you call it starbucking in the movie, but the gentrification of small towns and obviously the alcoholism and
the bullying,
bullying.
Peter Page,
your character
hitting his bully. That's really. I mean, so many people. I was bullied when I was younger. So many people see that are really affected by that. You kind of wish you could do that to your buddy.
Yeah, and even though he's a black, you still get to, and then you go and get like Basil Ford, you get the branch and smashing with it. I mean, because it's funny because we spoke to Paul Mackless, who edited The World's End. We worked with Edgar a lot, and he said his main memory of that shoot was how cold it was. It was
it's freezing. Absolutely freezing.
Like Letchworth in winter.
God, it was so cold. Yeah.
And that scene, you're outside, you're obviously having to punch this guy. But was that scene
very cold. Yeah. Filming's always cold. We always film the summer in the winter and the winter in the summer. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Because they always think, we've got a movie, it's a summer movie. By the time they get the money together to make it, it's the winter. Yeah. And you're freezing your bollocks off. It's just always the
same. And how technical the movie is as well. Like, even the beats of you guys when you walk into the pub, the Alabama whiskey bar song, you have to neck that pine on the beat. All have to
and
do
the
it.
Fight scenes are amazing. The choreography of the fight scenes. See, that's what I mean. The amount of prep and that Edgar and Simon put into that movie before it goes is wonderful.
Absolutely. And it's weird to only just realise this, but like you're making that movie obviously with Edgar and Simon and Nick and the others, but then also Paddy, who had only quite recently at that point directed you in Tyrannosaur, another incredible film, probably like your darkest role, I would say, or one of them. And then a year later too, that you're in Letchworth shooting World's End with Paddy.
Paddy's a very good friend of mine, and Olivia is as well. And what you do when you film something that's as dark as Tyrannosaur, you really connect with the people you're working with. You have because there has to be so much trust. Olivia had to feel very, very safe with me because of the abusive nature of the relationship, and also we had to research the dynamics of those relationships together. So when we did that, it was a journey we went on together.
Yeah, and so then I guess going from that, I mean, obviously it wasn't immediately after, but at all. But like then going with Paddy from that journey to then going into The World's End.
Yes,
completely different vibe. Like, and obviously he being the director of Tyrannosaur now is your co-star. I mean,
but I love him. Paddy's a very good friend of mine. He's an artist. He's a filmmaker, photographer, musician. and he's good looking. It makes me sick.
He is amazing. I mean, it's funny because back in my old job when I was up in Sheffield, I worked at a cinema, and he came to do a Q&A for Journeyman, his film, and he was so lovely. And I remember I was sort of wrangling mics for that, and he was just on stage cracking jokes and saying, "Oh, this lad," pointing to me like, "This lad will come, he'll come and give him the mic." It was so funny.
He's lovely.
And it's a shame though, because he's such a brilliant director, like Tyrannosaur, but also Journeyman, like. And yet, I think it's hard for, because there's only, I don't know whether for what reasons, but like, I feel like he's only been able to make 2 films. I don't know if he's trying to get a third one made, or maybe if he's having difficulties with maybe financing, but like, it does, when I went back and watched Tyrannosaur again, it did make me think that a lot of British directors, like up and coming, really promising directors, struggle with getting more than a couple of movies made. And if in the UK,
it's very hard.
It's very hard.
It's very hard, especially if you don't make a commercial movie.
Yes.
If you make a movie that's more to do with what you need to express, it's very hard.
Yeah, because I understand you're interested in potentially directing as
well.
Yeah,
I get asked all the time, man, because I had 4 young children and I was doing a long show on Ray Donovan for 9 years.
Of course.
It wasn't conducive, but now my youngest is now doing his A-levels and I've got 3 at university. I kind of feel like I can see it now coming. I never rushed to do it. I would love to do it, but I had to put family first.
Of course. And what do you think you'd bring to it? Like, do you feel like you had? I remember at one point you said that a film about meditation would almost be something that would interest you. I mean, do you have stories inside?
I don't know. Anything about where people transcend themselves, where they go beyond what they consider to be their own limitations. Things like that interest me. I think we live in a world at the moment where people are being defined and separated. I think you have to categorize people to measure inequality, but don't limit people to those categories. That's one of the problems, I think.
They should be able to transcend.
They should be able to transcend because they're not only those things.
Absolutely. Well, as you say, in some ways, I guess quite similar to your journey, like going from Bethnal Green then to America and 21 grams and all the journey you've been on is extraordinary.
But I was thinking about it the other day when I still very, very close to my friends in Bethnal Green, and a few of the guys taught me to dance when I was younger. I got into acting through dancing. And I was thinking the other day about when I danced when I was 15, 16, and I used to dance in clubs. I realized that even then it wasn't performative. It was me. It was a safe space. I wasn't taking drugs. I wasn't drinking. I was losing myself in the music. I liked what we call rare groove or James Brown or funk, and I would just dance to that and forget everything else. And I've basically been doing that as an actor for the last 34 years, really. It's the same process.
Keeping that sort of expressiveness and
it's not about you thinking that I'm brilliant. Your opinion of me will be, if you come and see a film of mine and you've had an argument with your girlfriend and you both sit and watch the film, when I'm up on that screen, you're going to think I'm terrible. If you meet up with your girlfriend and she tells you she loves you or she's pregnant, you sit there and you hold her hand, you're going to think my performance is fucking wonderful. Really, your opinion of me is more informed by what's going on in your life than it is in mine.
Context.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, bringing it up to the present, I mean, like the work you've got coming out, very soon.
Yes.
Your next movie is No Ordinary Heist.
No Ordinary Heist, yeah.
Based off the very famous Belfast bank robbery of 2004, Northern Bank. I've seen it. It's great. I mean, again, like that sort of white knuckle energy. We've talked about. I think is through quite a lot of the films you made. That white knuckle energy is really there. What was the experience like making that film? I mean, because you were working over in Belfast, presumably.
Yeah, we had half the movie was Belfast and half was Dublin. I would take that Belfast crew with me anywhere. They were amazing to work with.
Yeah.
Aina was lovely. I think Aina's a brilliant young actor. I think he's got so much integrity and honesty. He doesn't show off. It's not about him. There's no vanity to him. I think he's a wonderful actor. I think Colin MacGyver wrote a brilliant script. It's inspired by true events, but the story itself, the way he structured the story, it's these bank robbers have kidnapped the wife of the bank manager and the mother of the security guard, and they will kill them unless the bank manager and the security guard rob the bank for them.
Yeah.
But the bank manager and the security guard have history together, hate each other because of what happened in the Troubles. So it's a brilliant story. The premise is amazing. I love doing it. I'd never played a part of someone from Belfast before, so I always want to do new things, and I just loved working with Aina. The connection we had together was wonderful.
Yeah, you guys are great chemistry together. And as you say, like it's always it's a challenging role because, as you say, you also, I mean, just on a technical level, like the Belfast accent, so specific, and yet you remain in that so brilliantly throughout the course of that film. It was so, I mean, genuinely, like, you know, hands up, so convincing.
Oh, thank you.
Good. I mean, because as you say, it's based off true events. You know, the 2004 robbery was at the time the biggest bank robbery in the UK.
It was, yes.
I mean, were you in touch with the people? Like, I know Kevin McMullen is the real guy who you played, the bank manager.
Yeah, I was in touch with any. No, it was written, and I served the script, so I never met those people.
Oh, okay. Well, which is surprising to me because the you can feel that the ring of truth, the detail is there.
Oh yeah, we had. I mean, I basically the information's on the script, and I build a character based on what is conducive to what they've written, and then I create a backstory.
Wow, because I had no idea of the real life story.
No, it's an amazing story.
Yeah.
The whoever robbed that bank never went in the bank. They never once went in. The bank manager and the security guard had to rob their own bank.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, not to spoil it for anyone because obviously it's not coming out yet, but like even the how it ends is like, you know.
Yeah, Michelle is fantastic. Yeah, she's wonderful, and Eva. It was a great cast, great writing, great crew. I loved it. I love doing films. I love doing films because it's like 120 minutes of pure artistry. You know, I love that. I love a good film. I love the beginning, middle, and the end. It's wonderful.
Yeah, the filmic experience, is that something that you're more you're closer to?
Yes. Yeah, I love it. I love working on something and then we all sit down and watch it, and it's lovely.
I mean, out of interest, what were the kind of films when you were growing up? Was there like specific films that were birthing in you that love of, I guess, cinema and acting as well? I mean, were there like touchstones for you, like or actors? Were you like, this is what I want to do?
Well, I remember when I was a kid watching The Night of the Hunter, which was directed by Charles Lawton and Robert Mitchum. Yeah, that was an amazing film. Terrified me when I was a kid. Yeah. Absolutely terrified me. The Godfather was a big film for me. Alfie, I loved. Yeah, I loved Alfie. John Hurt in Naked Civil Servant. That was an incredible film. Bob Hoskins in Pennies from Heaven. That was an amazing thing for me. Actually, but hearing Bob Hoskins talk on screen, and the authenticity of his voice, the way he swore like my father swore, he sounded like me. That was a big thing. Because before that, you know, and even now, quite often we now make gangster movies and they're kind of wish fulfillment characters because the people making them think they're cool, you know. Yeah. When Bob Hoskins did The Long Good Friday or Mona Lisa, the characters were vulnerable and you didn't want to be a gangster. You just basically learned something about yourself. Now we make movies where everyone wants to be a gangster. I think it's ridiculous.
The romanticization of it. It's like, I mean, going all the way back to the beginning with Gangster No. I mean, one of the great things about that film, I think, is that you have that sheen of the surface of the suits and the shirts and like all the 60s gangster image, you know, which again, kind of for some was kind of aspirational, like, you know, like you say, the craze, the image of it, the feel. But then actually the great thing about that film and like, you know, other films that those writers did, like Sexy Beast and Fought It for Its Chest, that you unpick that and you actually go underneath into the vulnerability.
You know, whenever somebody makes a movie about gangsters from an area where they actually lived amongst gangsters, Scorsese, Gangster No. Sexy Beast, when Ray played that character. Yeah, we grew up around people who were villains. There were lots of villains in the East End, nasty people, and when you're young, you admire them, and then when you get older, you realize the error of those ways. Every great movie, Scorsese, Gangster No. Sexy Beast, for the first half, you want to be a gangster, and the second half, you thank God you're not a gangster. When people make movies about gangsters now, and they don't come from those areas, they romanticize gangsters. That's the difference.
Yeah. Well, along with No Ordinary Heist, obviously coming out in a couple of weeks, you've also, I mean, what can you tell us about the other upcoming projects you've got?
There's Campion Gabacho, or in English, the English translation of that is Gringo Champion, which is directed by Jonas Coran and produced by his father Alfonso, and it's premiering at South by Southwest Festival, and it's a beautiful film about a young boy who comes from Mexico, comes into America, and goes an incredible journey. I play a bookkeeper who employs him and kind of gives him a home and champions him in some way. It's a wonderful story. It's a real beautiful kind of story about an immigrant, but about it's the visual makeup of it. The magic in it is wonderful. And then I've got Prisoner coming out, which is a drama for Sky, which is coming out at the end of April. And it's a very exciting project. They seem to be very excited about it. So,
anything you can tell us about Prisoner? Is there any?
It's a story about a young prisoner who's going to be like a witness in a court case, and the criminal organization that he could give evidence against, they hijack the police vans as they're taking him to the court, and it's about him and a young woman who's the prison guard, and they're trying to survive being killed, trying to be killed by the criminal organization.
Okay, and where do you fit in?
I play the guy who runs the investigation, and I'm trying to keep them alive.
Fantastic.
And it's a great character.
Yeah, it sounds like a real, white knuckle.
It's a real white knuckle ride. Yeah.
And then with the Gringo Champion, that kind of story of transcendence. It was just when you were describing that, it reminded me of what you said before about.
Yeah, it is wonderful, and also it's a great movie at the moment because of what's going on in the US with ICE and everything. So it's just wonderful to make that kind of movie, which kind of champions the immigrant narrative, really.
Yeah. I mean, just very, very quickly out of interest, I mean, what's it like working in the US at the moment with what's it like?
Well, I recently shot, I'm doing a series for FX, Disinherited, which I'm going to shoot later this year, I believe. So we shot the pilot last year in New York, but New York is a very different part of, of America. I mean, I was there, I think, I left 2 days before they elected Mandami, so it's not like shooting in Ohio or something. It's it's a very, the part of America I worked and lived in was Brooklyn, and it was really progressive and stuff.
Yeah, New York kind of is its own kind of world, and then the US is like the rest of the rest of it. Yeah. And a question we ask on Half the Picture to all our guests: is there anyone out there currently working now, be they director, actor, who you're a big fan of, who maybe you haven't worked with before, who if you could get a chance to work with them, you'd be like, oh, that would be great?
Todd Stallans.
Oh, really?
I love Happiness is one of my favorite films.
Wow.
I'd love to work with Todd Stallans.
That would be interesting. That'd be interesting because like Happiness, that's a
amazing film.
I mean, completely off the wall. I mean, I don't think that's a film you could get made today.
I just think it's amazing, and I think Magnolia was the commercial version of Happiness.
Oh, really? Because we mentioned Magnolia before we started rolling.
But I think Happiness is a far better film.
It's a lot darker. Anyways, amazing. Well, I mean, hey, you heard it here for Todd Stallans, Eddie Marsan. Let's make it happen, people. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Such a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.